She texted, "I'm moving back to town and need a place to stay." I said no. Then she showed up anyway, with her bags, my sister's key, and a smile that said she'd already decided I didn't get a choice, that I hadn't talked to my ex, Laura, in almost 3 years. When she left, it wasn't dramatic. No cheating, no screaming matches, just a slow decay of something that used to feel safe. She said I'd changed, that I'd gotten too quiet, too stable, too predictable. I said she'd started chasing chaos like it was oxygen. We broke up on a rainy Thursday in March. She packed her things into 3 suitcases, kissed my cheek, and said, "You'll thank me one day." I didn't. After that, life got simple. I bought a small house in the suburbs, kept my head down, fixed things when they broke, and learned to enjoy the silence. My sister, Maggie, was my closest family, younger by 4 years, loud, kind, impulsive. She and Laura had always been close. They met through me and stayed friends long after we split. I didn't mind at first. I figured they'd drift apart eventually. Then, a month ago, I got the text. "Laura, hey stranger, smiley face. I'm moving back to town and need a place to stay for a few weeks. Can I crash with you?" I stared at it for a solid minute, then typed back, "That's not going to work, Laura." She replied instantly, "Come on. It's temporary. I'm still friends with Maggie, and she said you've got a spare room." That made me stop, because I did have a spare room, but only Maggie had ever used it when she visited. "Still no," I wrote. "Hope you find a place." She didn't respond after that. I figured that was the end of it. 3 nights later, I got home from work and saw a car in my driveway. Old Honda, stuffed with boxes. And there she was, Laura, standing on my porch like she never left, with 2 duffel bags at her feet and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hey," she said too casually. "Maggie said you'd be okay with this once we talked in person." I felt my pulse spike. "Once we what?" She jingled a small silver key in front of me. I told her I'd forgotten mine. She had a copy from that time she house sat for you. I just stared. My sister had a key, but she was never supposed to give it to anyone. "Laura," I said slowly, "you need to leave. Right now." She crossed her arms. "It's late. I've got all my stuff here. Be a decent person for once, yeah?" That last line hit something raw. Old habits die hard. The guilt, the need to keep the peace. So instead of shouting, I said, "You can stay one night. That's it." She smiled like she'd already won. I should have known better. That night, I barely slept. I heard her moving around, opening cabinets, humming. The kind of restless noise that fills a house and makes it feel smaller. In the morning, she was still there, barefoot, drinking coffee from my favorite mug, scrolling her phone. "I've got a few job interviews this week," she said, like we were roommates. "Maggie's gonna help me settle in." "Maggie's not supposed to help you move into my house," I said flatly. Laura tilted her head. "You've really turned into a hard ass, huh? This isn't like you. People change." She gave a small laugh. "Guess they do." That evening, I called Maggie. She picked up cheerfully. "Hey, big brother. Laura made it in okay?" "Maggie," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You gave her my spare key?" Silence. Then, "She said you were cool with it." I explicitly told her no. I thought she just wanted to drop off boxes. "She said you two had talked." "Maggie." I cut in, "She's staying here. She has bags in the guest room." There was a pause, then a nervous laugh. "Oh, okay, yeah, that's bad. I'll talk to her, okay? Don't freak out." I'm not freaking out. But she's leaving tomorrow. Except she didn't. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a vacuum. She was cleaning. Not the polite kind of cleaning, the territorial kind. She'd reorganized the kitchen, moved my mail off the counter, and set up candles in the living room. When I told her to stop, she said, "I'm making myself useful." "You're welcome." That's when I realized she wasn't planning on leaving. So, that night, after she went to bed, I changed the locks. Quietly, methodically, I packed her bags, left them on the porch, and texted her, "You're not staying here. Don't try the door. I've changed the locks. Your things are outside. I'll talk to Maggie tomorrow." At 6 a.m., she banged on the door. I didn't open it. She yelled, cried, cursed, called me names I hadn't heard in years. Then she switched tactics. "You're cruel, Mark. I just needed help." Her voice cracked. But when I peeked through the blinds, I saw her recording on her phone. That's when I realized this wasn't just desperation, it was performance. An hour later, I got a text from Maggie. "What the hell did you do?" Laura's saying you locked her out after promising she could stay. She's lying, I wrote back. She manipulated you for a key. I don't know who to believe right now. She's really upset. That hurt more than I expected. My own sister, the one I'd bailed out of rent, helped through her divorce, didn't believe me over a woman who'd shown up uninvited with a spare key. So I sent her the security footage, me changing the locks, Laura leaving with her bags, no confrontation, no shouting. Maggie didn't reply for hours. When she finally did, it was short. I messed up. I'm sorry. But by then, I was done. You gave someone access to my house without permission. You're not welcome here either until you understand how serious that is. I could almost feel her shock through the phone. You're cutting me off? Over her. Over trust. That night was the quietest my house had ever been. No music, no footsteps, no texts. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of rain outside. I should have felt peace. Instead, I felt hollow. Because sometimes drawing a boundary feels less like protecting yourself and more like burning a bridge you thought would always stand. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. Because the next morning, I found something wedged in my mailbox, an envelope, handwritten, in Laura's looping cursive. Inside was a single page. You can't erase people, Mark. You never could. See you soon. I didn't sleep much after finding that letter. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, reading it over and over. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, not the kind of thing you scrawl in anger. The words weren't threatening, exactly, but they had that undertone Laura was always good at, a mix of guilt and superiority that made you question your own sanity. You can't erase people, Mark. That line stuck in my head all day. By noon, I'd taken the letter to my lawyer, Daniel, an old friend from college who'd helped me with the house purchase. He frowned when he read it. Technically, it's not a direct threat, he said. But given the context, she entered your property without consent, used a key that wasn't hers. I'd file a police report, even if it's just to document a pattern. So I did. The officer at the station took notes, asked a few routine questions, and logged it as a trespassing and harassment concern. He gave me a copy of the report. It felt surreal, like watching someone else's life spiral into a bureaucratic form. When I got home, everything looked the same, except for one thing. The small security camera above my front door, the one I'd installed after my last break-in scare, had its cable unplugged. Not ripped out, not broken, just neatly disconnected. That's when I felt it. That cold, crawling certainty that she'd been back. I checked the footage from the night before. Between 2:14 and 2:23 a.m., the camera blinked out. When it came back on, there was a shadow in the corner of the porch, brief, almost unnoticeable. Someone standing just outside the frame. I sent a clip to Daniel and the officer's email with the note. She's been here again. Then I called Maggie. She sounded exhausted. Mark, I know what you're going to say. Do you? I interrupted. Because she was at my house last night. Again. I told her to leave you alone, she said quickly. She's been staying with a friend across town. She swore she'd stop bothering you. She lied. Maggie sighed. Look, I screwed up, okay? I thought she just needed a place to crash. I didn't think it would turn into this psychodrama. It's not drama, Maggie. It's trespassing. And now it's getting creepy. There was silence, then a quiet. Do you think she'd actually try to hurt you? I didn't answer right away, because that wasn't the question I was asking myself. What I wanted to know was whether she wanted to hurt me or control me. 3 days later, I came home from work to find a delivery on my porch. A box. No return address. My name written in marker. Inside was a framed photo, one from years ago, when Laura and I were still together. We were at a music festival, sunburned, sweaty, smiling. The glass was cracked straight across her face. There was no note this time. I called the police again. They took the box, told me they'd look into it. The officer, a younger guy, tried to sound reassuring, but I could see it in his face, another domestic mess. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching me. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The pipes, the creaks, the faint rustle of branches outside. At 11:47 p.m., I heard a light tap on the window. Just once. When I turned on the porch light, nothing was there. But the next morning, there was a single daisy on my doormat. By that point, Daniel told me to install a full surveillance system and keep a record of everything. So I did. 3 cameras, inside and out, cloud backup, timestamps synced to my phone. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. No letters. No knocks. No flowers. I started to think maybe she'd finally stopped, until I got a message from an unknown number. Unknown, you changed the locks. You installed cameras. You think that makes you safe. Then another, seconds later. You used to love me for noticing everything. Now you call it stalking. I blocked the number. Then I sent screenshots to Daniel and the police contact. But what really broke me wasn't the messages. It was finding out how she got my number again. When I checked my phone account online, I saw that someone had requested a SIM replacement 2 days prior, in person at a store across town. The store clerk confirmed a woman matching the description of Laura had come in, claiming to be my wife. She even had my old address on file. They deactivated my SIM and gave her a new one. She'd been using it to mirror my texts for almost 48 hours before I noticed. That's when I stopped sleeping altogether. I took a few days off work and stayed in a hotel under a different name. Daniel helped me file for a restraining order, and the police finally opened an official case. Maggie, to her credit, went silent. She stopped defending Laura, stopped texting entirely. I think she realized how far it had gone. When the court granted the temporary restraining order, I felt nothing. No relief, no victory, just a kind of dull ache. Like realizing someone you once trusted with your secrets now knew exactly how to use them against you. A week later, Laura broke the order, or tried to. She showed up at my office lobby with a peace offering, a handwritten apology letter, and a potted plant. The receptionist, bless her, called the cops immediately. They detained her for a few hours, warned her, and let her go. But that was enough for me. That night, I filed for a full order of protection, changed my number, and told Maggie she was no longer allowed to have a key, access, or contact with me until further notice. She cried, "Mark, I didn't know she'd do all this." I swear I didn't. I believed her, but I also knew forgiveness wouldn't fix the damage. Because some lines, once crossed, stay visible forever. The last message I ever got from Laura came through an untraceable email account. "You always needed control. Now you've got it. But don't pretend you didn't miss me watching you." I forwarded it to the police. Then I deleted the email, sat in the dark for a while, and realized something that chilled me more than anything she'd done. She wasn't wrong. I did miss the quiet before all this, but that quiet wasn't peace. It was blindness. I'd spent years convincing myself that setting boundaries made me cold, unkind, unloving. But now I understood, boundaries weren't walls. They were fences with locks. And the only mistake I made was leaving the gate open too long. Update 1, that it's been about 2 months since the restraining order was issued. I honestly thought the story was over, or at least fading into the kind of quiet you can live with. I moved apartments. New lease, new number, new locks. I even changed my car, sold the old one, bought something used but unrecognizable. My lawyer called it resetting your footprint. For a while, it worked. I started sleeping again, eating normal meals. I even started dating someone. Nothing serious, just coffee and small talk. For the first time in months, I felt like a human being again. Then last week, I got a call from my old landlord. "Hey man," he said awkwardly. "Someone's been around the old place asking for you." "Who?" Didn't give a name. Said she was your sister. I figured it was Maggie, but he hesitated. "She didn't look like the photos you had up. Tall, blonde, a kind of intense." My blood ran cold. That wasn't Maggie. That was Laura. I called Maggie immediately. She sounded defensive the second she picked up. "Don't start," she said. "I haven't talked to her in weeks. She showed up at my old place pretending to be you." "What?" "She told my old landlord she was my sister. Used your name. You really haven't been in contact." There was a pause. Then she whispered, "No, but she texted me from a new number about 2 weeks ago." I didn't reply. I swear. "What did she say?" "She said she wanted to make things right. That she was done being the villain." I thought ignoring her was best. It wasn't the wrong instinct, but it wasn't enough either. I forwarded the info to my lawyer and the detective assigned to my case. They told me to sit tight, keep documenting everything, and avoid any form of engagement. That same night, I noticed something strange. When I logged into my email, I saw a login attempt from a device in another city, one I'd never been to. Same provider as mine, same IP prefix. The system marked it as a potential spoof. It didn't take much guessing to realize who it was. I changed every password I had, set up two-factor authentication through a physical security key, and closed old accounts that still had traces of our shared life. Spotify, Netflix, old joint Amazon orders. Every reminder of her had to go. But here's the thing. Cleaning up digital footprints feels like washing your hands in ink. No matter how many times you scrub, something stays under your nails. A few days later, I was walking home from work when I noticed a car parked across from my building. Silver Toyota. Not unusual, except it was the same model Laura drove back when she first showed up with her bags. I told myself it was nothing. Coincidence. But when I crossed the street, the car started up. Slowly rolled past. Tinted windows. No license plate visible from the front. The kind of detail your brain doesn't want to register, because once it does, you can't unsee it. I got inside, locked the door, and called the detective again. He told me to stay put, that they'd check the cameras in the area. 2 days later, he called back. We might have something, he said. One of the traffic cams picked up a plate. It's registered to a rental, under a false name, but paid with a debit card tied to Laura's old bank account. She's still in the area. That was both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because I wasn't crazy. Terrifying because it meant she was still watching. The detective said they were building a stronger case for a stalking charge. But the truth? That process moves slow. You can't arrest someone for hovering around the edges of your life. You have to wait until they step over the line. And every night, I wondered if that line would be my front door. Then, something unexpected happened. Maggie reached out. She asked if we could meet. I almost said no, but she sounded desperate. Please, Mark. Just once. I need to tell you something. We met at a diner halfway between our places. She looked tired, not her usual self. She showed up at my apartment, she said quietly. Last week. I froze. What? She knocked for an hour. Said she wanted to forgive me. Said you'd poisoned her reputation. I didn't open the door, but she knew things about my life now. Things I never posted anywhere. I stared at her. Like what? Like where I work. What time I leave. My boyfriend's name. We both sat there for a minute, letting that sink in. She's not after just me anymore, I said. Maggie nodded. She's unraveling, Mark. She's trying to drag everyone down with her. That night, I drove Maggie to a friend's house and made sure she stayed there. Then I emailed the detective again, this time attaching everything, screenshots, the landlord's statement, Maggie's account. He wrote back, "This is enough. We'll issue a warrant for violation of the restraining order and harassment. Stay alert. Don't engage." For the first time in months, I felt something close to relief. Not because justice was guaranteed, but because the system finally believed me. The next morning, I opened my front door and saw it again, a daisy on the doormat. But this time, it was crushed, broken, and smeared with dirt, like she dropped it on purpose. I left it there, let it wilt. Because maybe, finally, that's what this was, the end of something that had died a long time ago. Still, I can't help but wonder if she meant it as a goodbye. Or a warning. Final update that it's been almost 5 months since all of this started. When I read back through the messages, the police reports, the screenshots, it barely feels real. Like someone else's life that I just happened to document out of obligation. But it was real. Every minute of it. And the ending wasn't clean or cinematic. It was slow, messy, and, somehow, deeply human. The day they arrested Laura, I was at work. It was a Wednesday, gray, humid. The kind of day where everything feels like it's waiting to break. The detective called around noon. "We've got her in custody," he said. She violated the order again. This time, there's no wiggle room. Apparently, she'd shown up at Maggie's job, not mine this time, demanding to talk things out and fix what he broke. She'd been escorted out, screamed something about truth coming out, and refused to leave the parking lot until security called the police. When they ran her name, the restraining order popped up. She didn't resist, didn't even speak. The detective said she looked tired, not unhinged, not dangerous, just empty. I should have felt relief. But instead, I felt the kind of fatigue that sits deep in your bones. Because the truth is, I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted her to stop. The following week, I had to testify. It wasn't dramatic, just a sterile courtroom, the sound of keyboards, and her sitting across from me in a wrinkled blouse, staring at the table. Her lawyer spoke first. "My client has suffered emotional distress. She regrets her actions. She's undergoing therapy." I didn't look at her until the judge asked me to confirm the details. The trespassing, the fake key, the messages, the stalking. When I finished, Laura finally raised her head. Her eyes looked exactly the same as they did the night she asked to stay. Tired, hopeful, manipulative, all at once. She mouthed something. It looked like, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Because at that point, sorry didn't mean anything. Not when every apology came only after being cornered. The court issued a 2-year protection order. She's not allowed within 500 feet of me or Maggie. She's required to attend counseling. It's the best outcome I could have hoped for, but it still doesn't feel like closure. After the hearing, Maggie and I went for coffee. She was quiet the whole time, playing with the paper sleeve on her cup. "I hate that I helped her start this," she said finally. "You didn't know?" I said. "I should have. I saw the signs before. The way she talked about control, about proving people wrong. I thought she was just dramatic." We both sat there for a while. Then she asked, "Do you think she actually loved you?" I thought about it longer than I probably should have. "Yeah," I said finally. "In her way. But love doesn't mean safety. And it sure as hell doesn't mean access. The hardest part hasn't been the fear. It's been the aftermath, the constant hyper-awareness, the way I still double-check door locks even in daylight, how I flinch when my phone buzzes with an unknown number. People talk about trauma like it ends when the danger ends. It doesn't. It just changes form. Some nights, I still think about that first letter she left. You can't erase people, Mark. And in a strange way, she was right. I didn't erase her. I just stopped letting her rewrite me. A few weeks ago, I got an email from the detective. Laura had completed her first month of counseling and checked in with probation. No violations since. He ended it with, "Looks like she's finally letting go." I hope that's true. For her, for me, for Maggie. Because in the end, all of this wasn't about revenge or justice. It was about distance, the space between who we were and who we had to become just to survive each other. My life is quieter now. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the front door, waiting for a knock that never comes. Other times, I wake up and realize I've slept through the night. No cameras, no alarms, no adrenaline. Just quiet. And that's when it hits me. Peace doesn't come when you win. It comes when you stop waiting for the next intrusion. I still have the daisy she left, the crushed one. It's pressed inside a notebook, between pages I can't bring myself to open often. Not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder that boundaries are love. That kindness without limits is a loaded gun pointed inward. And that sometimes, walking away isn't cruelty. It's survival. I don't know where Laura is now. Maybe she's getting better. Maybe she's just moving on to another story, another version of herself. All I know is, this chapter's closed. Not cleanly, not perfectly, but closed. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough.